contract articles. And there were several that I think we were in agreement upon. And we're ready to be signed off on. And
Are these the similar ones to what Mike Larry sent over?
These are those articles, yes.
What was wrong with ours?
Well, actually, one of the ones that I believe, if I recall correctly, Mr. Lowry sent was inaccurate. I prepared the 5 articles, and I believe they are accurate. And you're welcome to review them.
if you could look at them here, Kristen. I don't know how many we had.
But I thought he went back and corrected it and sent you a correct version, didn't he?
Well, I prepared these, and they are correct.
So you want us to sign off on the things you prepared, but the things we prepared, we're not willing to sign off on?
Did you bring copies of what you prepared?
We emailed it to him with my
Did you bring
signature,
copies?
with my signature on it.
I don't know what these aren't identified as ours or yours. They're plain.
Just a point.
Okay, I just trying to get to the agreement. Okay, well. So I guess that's, because not everyone has a copy in front of them. We're looking at Article 1, which is entitled Contracting Parties, Article 9, which is Personnel Records, Article 11, which is Management Rights, Article 13, Reduction in Force. I think that's the articles.
22.
And Successor Clause. Yeah, Successor Clause, I'm sorry. There's also, so there's 5 of them. We have 2 other articles to provide. Here's 4 copies. This is Article 7 on seniority and Article 19 on probationary period. Here's 4 copies that way. Here's some copies that way.
We need one more copy. Thank you.
Give them to-
Okay.
I gave away all, so. We can share.
Is there any significant changes to what's in the contract that you want to tell us about, Mike? If not, then I mean, if you just think that it's kind of self-explanatory, it's fine.
What's underlined and highlighted is being added, and I
Same.
believe that's what we discussed at the last session.
So, yeah, we're just trying to clarify what's already the existing practice.
Okay.
Which is that if you're reemployed by the county,
within a year of your separation date, you retain your seniority. We just thought we'd put that in there because that is the practice that we've been following for a while, and people should know that.
And then, just to also be clear, that annual leave accrual and how people land on the layoff list, if there's a layoff, is done by seniority. Which is, I guess, pretty standard practices. And then, in the probationary period article, which is 19, we're adding that allows the union 1 hour during the department orientation.
Okay, thank you. So I'd like to have her introduce, I don't know the new administrator.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So,
Yeah.
you know,
Oh, I'm sorry, because the administrator's been to a number of our bargaining sessions, so I just
Yeah.
assumed that.
Yeah, the
But
last
But you
one.
weren't here, that's right, Curtis, I'm sorry.
And then she wasn't there due to the
Then-
death of the lieutenant.
Right. All right, well, good, well,
Janice Gilly, nice to meet
good to
you.
meet you as well, thank you.
Thanks for coming down.
All righty,
I'm Jana Still. I'm the HR.
okay.
It's nice to meet you.
Good to meet
Sorry, I'm
you
the
as
new
well.
kid on the block.
What is
I'm
it?
sorry, it's Jana Still.
Jan-
Jana, sorry, it's not
Jana.
Janice.
Jana.
Jana Still, yeah.
You're the new HR?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
It's really nice to meet you.
nice to meet you.
I'm still me.
Still look like you. You look like you.
Huh?
Always positive.
Yeah, this is the new me, completely redone.
A
Well,
little bit more swag.
can I meet all of you? Because, okay, I heard him call you Mr. Curtis.
Yes, my name
You're-
is Curtis Howard. I'm the International Vice President
Okay.
for Amalgamated Transit Union out of Maryland,
Okay.
Baltimore, Maryland. And I service Mr. President Mike Lowry's local, and currently doing both contracts.
Okay.
Also doing the ECAT contract as well.
So if you're here tomorrow, you'll see him again.
Hey.
So I'm Mike Lowry, I'm the president of the local. I've been working at ECAT for April will be 25 years.
Wow, it's a great accomplishment.
I'm Steve Livings. I work in fleet maintenance.
Okay. Okay.
And Roy Riley, I work at the beach.
Oh, fun times for you. Well, it's nice to meet all y'all. Thank y'all for
Good to
coming
meet
out
you.
here today,
Yeah.
meeting with us. And again, like Ms. Gilly mentioned, you know, we really did get some sudden news, and it kind of hit some people pretty hard because it really was a sudden death. It was very unexpected. So please forgive us for our kind of mentality shift a little bit. So
Right.
apologize for that.
We do have our new facilities director as well,
Oh, yeah, sorry, Cassie.
Oh,
Cassie Boatwright.
okay.
Good to meet you.
Nice to meet you. So, Mike, I mean,
We will,
That's Curtis.
yeah, we
well,
have
no,
some,
I was referring to you, but I was looking at him to say, want to move to the next thing?
yeah, well, we sent you an email a few
Okay.
minutes ago
Okay,
about our wage proposal.
okay.
It's a pretty big document, so
Okay.
we wasn't able to print it out here, of course.
It's on an Excel spreadsheet.
I saw it.
We saw it.
Is it possible to get it up on the screen?
So we could explain it?
And all this
Probably
technical,
be a James question.
No, not unless you have a thumb drive.
Yeah.
how about us tonight? Why we gotta have a thumb drive?
You can't pull it up
Because
on an
it would
email?
have to be logged into that computer and broadcast from what is back in that room that links it to that TV. So we can't sync our computer with that email to that computer.
So if we get it on a thumb drive, then we could put it up on the screen.
I think so.
Do you have a thumb drive with you, Kirby?
I have a spare thumb drive, but if you have it on a thumb drive already.
You know, we don't already have it on the thumb drive.
If they could,
If we have it, if we have something on the
if you
thumb
give me your
drive, can you
email,
put it
I
up
can
there?
email you the document.
Oh,
Okay.
it would have to be secured.
JK.
They won't load it.
Secured. Yeah, the ransomware. Right. Yeah, there's ransomware. I don't know if y'all are aware, the city of Pensacola was ransomwared and.
No, I'm not aware of it, but it seems like a lot of roadblocks every time we try to get something.
Well, you
done.
could have brought hard copies.
It's a pretty large document, and
We could have done a lot of things. You could have done.
we thought it'd be easier to give it to you by email, that way you have it.
Okay, is this it?
That's
Yes.
it. That's it.
That's it, okay?
I mean, if
That's
you
it.
can print it out, then that'd be fine. Right?
Well, I don't know if we can do that.
I don't think Mike has his
This is just my
iPad
iPad.
hooked to a printer.
Yeah.
I sent it to you too, but,
Yeah, just now,
yeah.
after the session started.
You find fault in everything everybody does, I tell you. We're gonna have one pleasant day. Just one where we can get along and disagree, we can disagree, but shit, every time I come, this is the worst negotiations I go to every time I come. I dread coming to Skager County.
I'm sorry to hear that. So,
Okay, let me see.
I just thought we would put it up on the screen just in case, because there's people that are not seeing it, so.
we can't do
Yeah.
that.
What I thought.
Okay, so let me see if I can describe what I'm looking at and tell me if I'm right or wrong. It's a 3-year plan?
So, yes, 3-year plan to get to the point where all the classifications are to an industry-type wage and also allowing them to be under a wage progression, so there's consistency within those those classifications where individuals don't feel like they're chasing someone in their wage classification, even though they both do the exact same job. It gives them an opportunity to, reach a top pay and see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Okay, and it looks to me like as if different job classifications have different wage progressions.
Sure, each classification has its own wage progression. Some are 5 years, some are 7 years, some are 10, depending on
Quick
the.
side note, sorry, I spoke with our IT guru over there,
Yeah.
and he said if we could give him a little bit of time, he could get it up here. So if we wanted to discuss something else first, if y'all really wanted for everyone to see it at the same time, so we could all discuss it. Because I don't want y'all to think we're trying to operate against y'all. It's just this was really a new initiative
Right.
we had to take for what
Wanna do
happened.
that,
We
Curtis?
understand.
That would be
Yeah, we
helpful.
understand
So would y'all be
things.
okay with that,
Of
if we
course.
could
That would
do
be
that?
helpful, I think,
Could you email the current version to me, please?
I am right now.
Okay, thank you.
she's got it. I sent it to Mike and
You have
Janice.
a business card?
And Kristen.
Yes, sir, I do.
And mine is in the other room. I'll make sure I bring it back after we caucus. I'll bring it
Okay.
back.
And that's probably the best time for him to do that is if we go caucus, he can
absolutely.
get that pulled up for everyone.
Thank you.
These are really thick, and I apologize, so try to ferret them out to everybody.
How much time does he need? Because we could go.
I'll hand them out
after
on
we-
the side.
Okay, thank
We
you
could
so
go
much.
caucus on the TAs and look through them and then come back.
If that's what y'all would like to do, I mean, Mr. Matamore,
That makes sense.
Would that
And
make
we
sense?
also have some things to give you, so we'll make sure.
Yeah,
that-
we'll look at
We'll look
those
at
as
that,
well.
and we'll have you, give you some afterwards.
We would appreciate that.
Okay, very good.
fun times, guys. Thank you.
I don't like how negotiation goes all the time. It's good and it's bad. So, take this first.
Oh, yeah, would y'all like this back? I'm sorry, because we got it pulled up on the TV for y'all. And here's the keyboard and the mouse to operate it.
Thank you.
And it will time out. at
Yeah,
15
so every
minutes, so
15
we need
minutes,
to
so
keep-
just kind of squiggle it a little,
Gotta
yes, sir.
shake it, Mike's good.
Okay. 15 minutes? Okay.
Article 1 is the TA. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Article 9, here's the TA. Thank you. Here's Article 13.
Are you still on?
No,
Okay.
I'm not, but it looks that way. Here, I just signed it backwards.
22. Thank you. Article 11, we didn't sign yet. There's a question for me.
Okay.
And I don't know how it's practiced neither. So the last sentence of it reads, and I'll wait till you pull it up.
Okay.
Communications by the union with any department or division of the BCC shall be coordinated in advance to human resources. Tell me what that would mean to you, because that, to me, reads that we got to coordinate communications through HR before we communicate to any department.
Right, I don't think there's, I think all that's happening there is the reference to a bureau, which doesn't exist.
Right, I
It's really a
understand.
department. So that's really status quo. So what the status quo has been that when the union wants to talk to a division or a department director, they would contact Human Resources and arrange for that. So Human Resources is aware that that conversation is going on.
It's like HR is like our union representative, if that makes sense, if you do a comparison. So whenever you talk and have you want a union rep there, you can also have a HR rep there. If that makes sense.
So yes and no. So I'm used to copying the HR person, but not coordinating a conversation with somebody. So that can be bureaucracy, I would say. I believe that could be delaying communications of importance.
Well,
It
is
could be
it?
a lot of things.
Yeah.
However, copying and making sure that they're part of the conversation, that they know what's going on, we fully agree with. But coordinating it through them is putting things in front of it, and it could be sensitive things. And what I asked Mike was, Mike, would this impede our grievance process, timelines? So it's just something that we want you to consider, maybe changing it to, instead of coordinating, making sure that they're copied on or they're communicated at the same exact time, something that shows that they're not out the loop, but it doesn't say, suppose I can't get her, suppose she's not at work, suppose, a lot of things could happen. Just want you to consider that.
Okay.
We're comfortable with signing off on it, but we would like that little verbiage to where that's the change, not taking HR out of the loop in any form or fashion.
Just for my own curiosity, how does it work now?
I'll be honest with you, since I've been here, I just go to the department. I used to just copy, what's his name, Eric Klein, right? So I used to just communicate, send an email, and copy Eric and copy them, and Eric would probably be the one to respond to me, I agree with that, but he's already had a conversation with them or whatever, and then he would send me, Curtis, here's what we're willing to do.
Okay, well, okay. The example you used is a written communication. But how do you copy a spoken communication? You kind of can't.
No, you can't.
So I don't know if this necessarily means that you would send an email to HR saying, can I send an email to someone? I think it's more like, I want to have a meeting with somebody, and the meeting should be arranged through HR.
And I think we need to spell out what we want there.
Okay,
And you can
And-
counter.
yeah.
Yeah, but I wanted to have a discussion first. I know I can counter.
Yeah.
I just wanted to have the
Yeah.
discussion.
But I think that, am I wrong?
And I agree with you.
Am I wrong
No,
about?
I agree with you. I
my-
just,
My thoughts on
I
that?
agree with you.
No, I think-
That makes sense.
And I think the word
mean, you
notifying.
can't- Yeah. so we're-
Notifying might be kind of too what you're talking about, is
Right.
making sure that they're notified. of
Right,
the
so
room.
we're.
Yeah, I think, you know, if you,
So
If
would
you
change
write-
the word coordinated to notified?
No, hold on.
no.
I'm
a little
yeah, we'll
confused,
just
too.
wait and
We'll
see
talk
what
about
you-
it when we get
No, no,
there.
no.
Okay, yeah, let's wait till we get in there.
Yeah.
'cause-
But, yeah, so I just wanted to have that conversation.
Good. I'm glad we clarified it for you.
Okay, thank you. Next is, your Article 7 that you gave us this morning.
Yes.
We'll have to do it verbally because I don't have printer capability, so.
Okay.
Let's see. It says, years of service from the most recent date. We want to scratch out most recent date and just say from the years, from the date of hire. We also want to scratch out 1 year and put 2 years. And then on the second paragraph, we want to add at the end of it, and the labor agreement. Because we may negotiate something, or there may be a benefit in the labor agreement, and not just in the human resources policies and procedures.
Well, that's specific to annual leave accrual, which is specified in the HR policies and procedures manual. That's what it's
I just counted,
intended
I
to
understand.
mean.
We counted, we just counted. We did what you asked me to do the last time, we counted, except my counter. Thank you.
Okay, I think I have it. What's the scratch most recent, 2 years instead of 1, and the third thing you said is to add,
At the end of the last paragraph, the CBA, the labor agreement,
got it? Okay.
that's the only thing we have on that.
Okay.
Then on Article 19, probation period, we will hold on. 90 days should be, 90 calendar days should be plenty of time, 6 months. Then at the end of the paragraph of probation period, we'd like to add, except jury duty, funeral leave, military leave, and pregnancy.
Say,
Wait.
start it over again?
And maternity leave.
Jury duty,
Go ahead.
funeral leave, military,
Yeah, 1901. This one.
and pregnancy.
That would help me. Thank you.
Under the, correct me if I'm wrong, Jana, but those leaves don't exist under the HR policies. There's sick leave and annual leave, correct? And if you take bereavement leave, that comes out of your sick leave. I don't think there are separate categories.
These are our counters, and they don't,
And military would be governed by UCRS.
Right.
Yeah.
right, that's exactly.
So-
And then also, our employees don't start accruing leave until after they've been here
Their
for.
probationary
Yeah.
period.
No, they accrue during the
After-
probation.
Oh, but they can't use
They
it.
can't take it.
If
So
you read
could-
the last sentence, that's why we want our.
I'm sorry, that was a discussion I was trying to figure out.
Right,
if
I
we
would
were.
appreciate if y'all had that when I'm not here.
So just to be clear, you're saying each day of absence, that last sentence, except jury, funeral, military,
Maternity.
All right, then going to 1902. We hold our position on crossing out discipline, performance, and evaluations. which is in our original proposal. 1903, new employees. We would like to keep on a monthly basis because will be provided, but you didn't specify when. And so that could be open-ended, and you can give me that, Mike, when you retire.
And if I just,
Maybe sooner than later.
Well, we hope not. You do good.
and if I could add something that's more for HR here. You've been sending the updates of the new employees. I've discovered today that it's been going to Curtis, and he didn't realize until we pulled up his emails that I wasn't being copied. So I was unaware that those new hires were being brought in
Okay.
to the bargaining.
Cynthia?
I think that's the name,
Yeah.
Cynthia.
So
I was on the
you should be
email.
sending it. Okay,
I'm
so you're
sure
not
that's-
on it?
I'm not copied in the email.
But she's been
We'd appreciate it if I could be
sending that
copied.
stuff to me for quite some time now.
And if you need, I can give you, mine, it would be good for me and Yolanda, right? To be copied, and
Okay, so-
we can give you, I'll write down our emails.
Thank you, I'd appreciate that.
And then on 1904, orientation, where it says department, only thing we'd like to do is add, cross out department and put human resources, HR. And that's our counter to what you gave us this morning.
Point of clarification for the 1903, Mr. Curtis, do you want to remain on the employee orientation?
Mr. Curtis.
Do you want to remain on those, or do you want to be removed from the orientation
No, I
emails?
wanna-
So
yeah.
stay, remain,
Yes.
and just add y'all, okay,
Right.
got it.
And I'm sorry, the first sentence where it says with the employee's consent, we need that scratched out. We just wanted to read the union will be permitted up to. So we've responded, signed off on what we could, and we've given you a couple of, so we think we did good this morning so far.
You can hand that to her.
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay.
So we can cover that too if you'd like. unless-
Yes, that'd be good,
Okay.
since we got it up there.
Yeah, it'll be quick. So, Mike, and Janice, this is, as you know, there's been a long concern of employees. One of their major spokesmen is sitting to my left here that's been speaking out quite a bit over time now about wages and bringing wages into a consistency that would make people to be able to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Just using, and I'm going to go to Fleet, but I can explain how this looks here. Let me get to Fleet. There it is, right there. So first I want to make sure you understand that I did put in a public records request because we have about 35 to 40 names that we took off of your document you gave us in November that had the hire dates as part of the bargaining unit, okay? But we do not know their classifications, and we don't know their wage rate. So those individuals, we're looking for that to come to include them in.
Okay.
And then we also discovered that some individuals that are on here, we even found one that passed away 2 weeks ago that is on there, so that's a working document that would change.
Is that from HR?
That someone passed away? Oh, yes, the data?
Yeah. Okay.
So, what we did is, it took a lot of concern to go through and kind of analyze using fleet maintenance as being the most vocal classification, which we do know it's missing 2 or 3 names on there. We took those individuals and we took the hire date that you provided. I have been informed after showing this document to some folks, that some of them are even questioning their hire dates, okay? In that department, specifically at the beach, right?
Yeah.
And I can speak to that if you don't mind. If you pull hire date from the system, it is your hire date with the county.
Right.
Not your previous hire date. So they would have to actually pull the previous hire date if they're pulling data to get your hire date
Original.
when you started with SRO.
Okay.
We do keep that in the system, though.
So just keep that in mind when you're looking at this, okay? So what we did is we took it and we kind of analyzed it and tried to figure out how to create a wage progression, which if you see down here, this is what we created, was a wage progression right here, okay? And I'm going to explain to you how we decided to put it together. So yes, there is some significant increases in this classification during the year that we implement the wage progression for this group. This group here, we decided that we'd like to see the wage progression in the first year of the labor contract. So this would be something that would be, which is, we estimated, obviously, using the numbers we had, of $55,700 for these individuals to get them into a wage progression immediately and allowing them to fall in based on their years of service. In some of the classifications, we did that in the year 2, and some we did it in year 3 to kind of spread it out over the life of the contract to implement and create the wage progression. So that in this case of fleet maintenance, we did it over a 10-year progression, as you can see, and so their progression shows for year 1 and year 2. This would be what their wage rates would be, and then it also shows you year 3, the progression for them in this case. So what we did is in year 2, they wouldn't get any increase other than a step increase based on their years of service, but they wouldn't get, for instance, a 3% that year. So we did that to try to lower the burden on the overall cost. And you can go through these and see if you had questions, but up here in the green, just so you know, we highlighted these to show you the individuals that would be at top rate and when they would be at top rate. This individual here would be at top rate in the 3rd year of the contract. And then we also put off to the side here, 2nd year, no increase, just the steps increase based on years of service. And then we put, in the 3rd year, we would ask for a 3% across the board, plus obviously that's when the progression's in place, so steps would kick in based on years of service. And so we did that with every classification, and at the very bottom of this, let me grab it. Let me grab this thing and pull it down. I'm just going to roll. We kind of did an overall analysis of what we were looking for in the end and what it would cost. So here are all the classifications. We do want to point out that we're concerned about the classifications, and we think that both sides, we are planning to revisit the classifications with the unit clarification with PERC, because we want to ensure that all blue-collar type workers are covered under the bargaining unit. And we even questioned some that have been pulled out, because we think, for instance, I think one is a power equipment individual, and he's not listed on anything that you all gave us, and we think his classification should be in there, but you gave us the information on the lead power tech, which was a little confusing to us. We know what's in the contract, but we think we should visit those. You know, based on just that classification alone, we would actually probably believe that the power tech should be in the bargaining unit, and the lead, if he supervises that individual, would probably be pulled out.
The lead is not, based on my recollection of what is in the actual order defining the unit, the lead would not be included.
Okay, well, but
And so
I
don't
only,
base what
I only
is-
put that up there because that came in our documentation that we got from you. His
Well,
name was listed.
If that was listed in the
was
dates
a-
of hire, that doesn't necessarily mean that we consider that to be, that may have been a mistake.
Okay, well, again, we believe that we should be revisiting, checking out the classifications to determine who should be in the unit and who shouldn't. We think that there have been a couple pulled out, and then we think that there are probably maybe, like you just said, maybe some that should not be in. So but covering that, we came to the bottom here, and what we did, just based off of what we had, is we said in year 1, the following classifications would be, we would ask you to look at this and consider it. That cost was around $279,000. And I know that sounds like a lot of money, but you know what? To get clarity of people and get them into a more of a living wage, an industry type wage, and getting them to a point where they can see the future and making everything more fair, across the board and allowing everybody to have that opportunity to know how they get to the end of the road. That was what we listed for the first year.
And this is salary only, not additional benefits that would be included?
salary.
This is their wages, right? And then year 2,
And it's also a one-time,
These are the
Scenario,
classifications
not
that are
something that
included in the
goes
bargaining unit.
once you go and migrate, if we migrate to this.
Right, that's in the contract, right?
No, that is from
Increase in
Public
wages
Employees
would
Relations
result in an
Commission.
increase in
Okay.
That's what
retirement
defines
and
the
FICA, so it would
unit.
continue.
Okay. Is this your copy?
Right, but the migration
You can have
to
it.
the
Okay.
wage progression was only happening one time.
So year 2, we then added other positions that would be, then go into the progression, the wage progression, and also listed those who would get no raise, but only steps only. And then some positions, because they are in year 3, they would get the 3% that second year. And then we did the same with the third year, so you can kind of review all that. But if you have questions, we can cover it even further.
You can go back to where you were.
Yes.
What's your costing for year 2 and 3? I can't read that.
215,000. Now, that does not include the 3% for those, I think that's 1, 2, 3 classifications that would get 3% that year. And then year 3 would be about 177,000, but then you can see there's a bunch of classifications that would get 3% in that third year. But ultimately, it creates a wage progression, which becomes more consistent with individuals being able to, we found, I'll give you a couple examples. Well, I'll just verbally tell you. We found in several classifications where some individuals came in after other employees and were making a higher wage, but they're in the exact same classification.
Doing the same work.
Doing the exact same work, but they have less years of service. That doesn't seem fair.
It's usually not the way the union jobs, usually
Right.
it's by tenure.
And-
And everybody's doing the same work, you get paid the same, there's no dissension amongst who.
Depending on if those dates of hire are correct, because if an employee is rehired, a lot of times they are rehired at the rate that they left at, which then the rehire date
That's-
is still their new hire date in here, but we have that date in a different table.
And we understand all of that, but that's the reason why we want to get, for what she just said is the reason why unions.
Some of them we do know because we
wanna
actually
get
knew the
away from that
individuals when
and
they
just
got
make it
hired, so.
a one-time scale. And of course, usually in our industry, in ATU contracts, usually there are 3 to 4 or 5 year progressions at the most.
And this one's
But
all the way up to
We carried this
10.
one out because we know that, how the county works. So it's actually a 10-year progression versus a 4 or 5 year progression. But it is totally different to people that are not in the bargaining unit to look at this. It is totally a different setup. And it's, if you open union contracts, you'll see that just about every union contract, you'll see whether it's Teamsters, union, whether it's SCIU, whether it's ATU, it doesn't make a difference. Generally, we keep people by tenure at the same pay progression.
And we would hope that we would work after this bargaining session with HR to be absolutely sure what those hire dates are and who the actual bargaining unit employees are. Because we're only working off a document that Eric Kleiner gave us in the end of 2018, and we're working off the document that Kristen gave us at the last bargaining session. Otherwise, we don't, we have to work off what we've been given.
It should definitely be a collaborative effort.
Sure.
We definitely don't mind doing that.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. And so I do appreciate this, but I did want to recognize the fact that the board did pass an opportunity for a pilot program to try and do some salary increases for some of the units. So I would say that the board also agrees to the fact that we do need to do, some type of wage increase for, I would say, positions that are very difficult to fill and things like that. So I do want to make sure that we note that the board did also make an attempt to try and provide some wage. It obviously wasn't this,
Detail, we understand.
I was going to use the word convoluted, but I'll go with detailed. And, I do think that I would appreciate the recognition that they do recognize that there are some very difficult positions to fill, and so they have made a commitment to step up in some of those as well. So I did want to.
Can I ask a question on that? Was that only for the new hire pay, or is that for the entire classification to use that funding that was approved by the board?
Some of it will be new hires, some of it will be existing positions.
It would be. And it was about 200 and some odd thousand, right?
280. Yeah.
280 something? Right.
But understanding that some of this will eliminate some of the future complaints that employees are having when they work side by side, do the same classification, and make a different wage.
Well, I mean, but you also know that compression exists in probably every single, occupation in the world. I mean, I could be wrong, but, I mean,
This would,
I'm just saying, I mean, compression is, when you manage any company, compression exists.
I've only worked on a union job. I'm a union electrician out at IBW, so everybody I know makes the same amount that I make. I don't know different.
Well, I mean, compression is a struggle for most management teams in any environment, whether it's corporate or governmental. So,
that was part of the goal of here, is to eliminate
I
that.
understand.
Is to eliminate the compression, and then going forward, year 4, 5, 6, you guys would offer like you've consistently been doing for about 7 years now, an across-the-board raise, and then we would apply it to the wage structure, and then it's evenly just, put in there.
And you don't hear from us saying that they're unevenly yoked, right? That this person or this classification should be making more because the outside world that we live in is elevating more. The county here, and that's most counties and cities, are a little lower, but the benefits years ago used to be better. Well, today, the benefits are sinking, the pay is not increasing.
so in what regard would you say the benefits are sinking? Because
We're paying more out of our pockets for healthcare and other things here at the county.
And looking at some of those classifications, the pay rates, the increases across the board, it's not balanced based on your wage, it's right across, everybody gets an 8% increase on healthcare. And so some of these guys are getting a lot less in their
So if
paycheck.
I got a 3% increase, yeah.
Right? So if I'm making $11 an hour compared to someone that's 20, it's not as hard on the guy that's making 20
But the value of that 3% changes.
for the healthcare increase.
Right, so like with the pilot program, that would more or less affect new hires, but, the ones that have been there 5, 6, 7, 8 years, it does nothing for them. It brings the new hires in making what?
Or right on top of you.
Right on
It would
top.
affect some of the existing employees that are in positions now. Would not affect all of them, but it would affect some.
So,
it would have gotten everyone up to
So,
a similar rate.
So
would it
Janice-
affect fleet, though?
so
I mean, how
Janice,
so?
my- looking at my numbers,
Hold on, Mike, let me,
Okay, go ahead.
Henry answer his question.
No, there's, as you said, being able to hire people, it would raise the existing base rate from what it is now up to $15 an hour. And then 17, and then 19, and then 21. If anybody who's not making what the new base rate would be adjusted, whether they're an existing employee. And there are some existing employees that would see that adjustment. Would everybody? No, not everybody,
Because they were already over that cap,
because they
right?
were already over that base rate.
Yeah.
Well, we can
It
just
would
do,
also adjust your supervisors,
Right.
because you can't adjust your workforce over what your supervisor. Oh, I make. agree. So you have to kind of do it all at one time.
we can just do like we did, I just negotiated with the city of Tampa that the minimum wage for the city workers in Tampa are $15 an hour. We can do that with Escambia County. That would be beautiful. It would bring everybody up to a certain, including the supervisors. That would bring everybody up at one time. That would be really great.
So you're
Should
going
I-
to get me
should-
you're going to get me
should
the
I-
budget that City of Tampa has?
No.
I'm just asking.
We can get there. I can go to the mayor and ask her how she get there. I
Yeah.
can answer that.
I do have a question, thank you, this is very thorough. In terms of, what were the benchmarks utilized for the standard of the base rate?
well, we looked at the wage study, and we're trying to figure out
Sorry, which wage study?
the most recent one.
Okay, the Evergreen one?
But it became very frustrating when we started to go through and looking at where everyone was, which is everyone's all over. We had some people, making, we couldn't, the way we looked at it is we determined that we could tell the new hires the way they came in, but you could tell the people that have been here all the way back when it was a merit system. You could tell that that's how they got to where they're at or whatever, how the numbers, so we had to fluctuate it. We had to work on it, and we finally got to a point where we got to where we felt, we had the original numbers, you just blown you off the screen here. You would have died if you saw
The Evergreen one?
No, the ones
Okay.
the numbers that we thought were industry standard
Got it.
numbers. You would have, we had to go back, readjust it, so we made it more consistent and even numbers like 1950, 20, those kind of numbers, while still trying to move up to get people to, you have some classifications. I had one guy thinking like $11 an hour, and, who can live off that? We found custodial workers. I was amazed to look at the custodial workers. Let me see if I find that. The custodial workers, which there's only 5 of them, right? And when I looked at those custodial workers right there, over here, look at the years of service of these folks. 23, 24, 27, 28, 23, and their wage rates are $12 and $13 an hour, in that range. I know you could say it's a custodial job, but there's got to be time and service to get you to a $15 an hour type. At minimum, they should be around the $15 range right now. That's a living wage. I mean, these folks, that's, to me, that just doesn't add up, that they've been with the county that long, and that tells me that they've been getting small little raises all along, small percentages, small, and it's not getting them to where they should be. Now, if that person was a brand-new employee walking in, making $12.90 an hour, I might not say much here, but someone that's been here 27 years, you kind of think there's got to be a little time and service on top of that for that individual. They've committed their lives to Escambia County. That's how we kind of looked at it. So we tried to get them, as you notice, $15 an hour over here in the first progression. They would jump right to 15. We think those individuals are deserving of that. And I see the facility director smiling. We think they're good employees. So that was on our thought process.
That's the logic.
Yeah.
So, and then just a follow-up on that is, in terms of comparability, did y'all look at similar municipalities? I was just curious, and y'all didn't have, I was just curious if you did.
Yeah, we had to, it was hard to balance it. We had to look at some were, similar in size in the communities. But like he said, some of them you can't, because you look at, like she mentioned, Tampa, you got to look at the city and you got to balance it out. But we thought this would catch your, this would be more in line of what you could approve or potentially get the commissioners to look at and get them to consider to accept and get on board with. So that's why we put this together.
Thank you.
We would love to see if you got, a counter to it or if you agreed to
Well, no,
it.
this is your counter to my original,
To your original, which was,
the pilot.
The 280?
280?
The 12.
well, you'd never offered that across the
Yes,
table.
I understand.
We do have a question.
Because I was lost. I was like, I ain't got that in my book.
We never saw that. I just watched it from
I know.
from the seats. I just watched them approve it from the seats. We do have a question. The 3% that was approved for this fiscal year, for starting last October. We asked you a question, and you said you had to go back to the commissioners to find out, and you had to go to executive session, I'm assuming, which I think you had a couple in December, which was that for retro pay for the existing bargaining unit. I never heard back whether they got it, or was not discussed, or was it approved, or they said no, or what?
So what I would say is the board has not said no for forever. They just want us to continue with negotiations. Because part of their concern was that the letter could have been signed in a timely fashion to have given so they just wanted us to continue to go through. So it's not anything
So Janice?
against the employees or anything like that.
my response to that is, when we received the email, I countered, but I'm always willing to say, you just got to call me up and say, Mike, come down to my office, let's talk about what's your concerns. But instead, we had to wait till November.
So
Go ahead.
it concerns me, as I've told Mr. Randall before. Wages are a mandatory subject of bargaining for unionized workers in this country, period. Hopefully I'm stating that correctly. Mandatory subject of bargaining. Number one is always wages. The county commissioners are borderline taking that away by making that kind of assumption that it could have been signed there when we had some concerns and had a right to bargain over it. So I think his question is still on the table, and the county commissioners need to give us an answer. We'll put it in writing, respectfully, because they owe us an answer. Now, the answer is not to continue to bargain, because we've accepted this answer over when we was at ECAT from Mr. Malamore before. We'll get back to you, we'll let you know, and they never got back to us. One thing I've learned is make sure the county commissioners get back with you, give you something in writing. And no not in a disrespectful way, but open-ended things, they never get closed here. So if the closure is no, and they give it to us in writing that no, you're not gonna do it, then we decide at that point in time which avenue we wanna go. Either we accept it or we don't. But to sit here and say keep negotiating, but we're not discussing it at the table, is not truly negotiating. So I need closure to his question of the retro. Because we're not talking about retro. That was a question that came up, and if that's the response, just keep on, then Mike, we're going to tell you we want our retro across the table. But once again, history shows people's behavior, and we need whatever responses we get in writing.
Okay.
And that's not to be taking cheap shots at anybody, it's just keeping it in professionally. But we need to know which direction we want to go, because time is ticking, because our claim is that we would like the retro, and as they don't answer, it grows.
No, it doesn't.
Look, every time
We're talking about a finite time period during which time lapsed from the time it would have commenced.
Every time I speak,
I'm sorry.
I don't
I was
appreciate you
speaking.
cutting me off, because I was speaking.
It is a finite time period.
Look, I don't appreciate you cutting me off all the time. I don't cut people off. I jump in when they pause, but every time I say something you don't like, learn to accept what I'm receiving. You don't have to agree with me. I don't ask you to agree with me. I didn't just agree with her, but I respectfully gave her what we're asking for, and I didn't do it in an argumentative way. I would expect the same courtesy that I give, you give me, or anybody on this side of the table.
I thought you had paused, to tell you the truth.
I might have, but I'm so used to her just every time I'm in a thought or saying something, if she doesn't agree, she's got to jump in and make it a statement. I don't mind. I'm not asking you guys to agree. You know, when you deliver something to me, you don't always ask me to agree, but you deliver it. That's all. Just asking for the same courtesy in a non-hostile way. That's all I'm asking.
Well, okay. I just think it's for a point of clarification. It's not like the retro is an ongoing running meter. It's because we did cut off the amount that is at issue. But that's okay. You asked us for a response on the retroactivity piece of that wage action, and you asked it in writing, and we'll give it to you.
That's all.
Thank you. I want to add one thing. It's the whole process just started with the county approving a 3% across the board, the county commissioners. And I always feel like there's a step that's being ignored, which is the communication to the union before the commissioners approve that 3%. Shouldn't that communication happen before those commissioners even approve that 3% with those bargaining, when you got 5 unions you deal with, shouldn't that communication occur before they approve it, not after, and then you just send over an MOU?
Well, I think. if I'm
That would be the
taking a
more
stab at it,
courteous way to do it, is what I
Yeah,
would see it being done without a response like that.
Well, if we had an open-ended budget cycle, like some businesses do, I can see that, but, the county has a very strict budget process. It's mandated by law. So, they have to send out tax notices, and they have to decide how much money they're going to collect, and they have to, that has to be, go through processes. And so they get a budget. And in my experience at this county, and there's other counties and cities, as they get close to adopting the budget and having the budget go into effect, they get to see their resources, and then they can allocate funds or not based on what they're looking at the budget. That doesn't necessarily mean everything is cut off. You can, like you have, counter, you can ask for more money, you can, we can decide somehow we're going to give you less than what was budgeted. I mean, it's possible. But because that's so transparent and open, I mean, they're adopting a budget with money set aside for salary increases that you can go and hear them do it, We're not doing this in private, we're doing this in a public forum. And so and we know, the other unions know, we know, this is how much was set aside. So when we do that, we push it out because we want to get the money to people. So that is just kind of how that cycle works. And Janice, you can help, we can clarify it if I'm not saying the right thing, but.
Yeah, I mean, we start the budget process, well, we're going to start this year probably in March or April and then we'll do forecasting, like, May, June, July, about what the revenues would be. And then they'll have their budget hearings. I mean, so it would be standard. And I think the other thing too, I mean, I was only there a couple of weeks before we did this last year, and quite frankly, all I did was take what had been prior practice. So I went through with the memo, you see what I'm saying? So I'm not saying that there isn't an opportunity for conversation about that, but what I am saying is I didn't know that I did anything that much differently than what had been done for, I think, several years before, so.
Yeah, it happens in a lot of the public sectors. Like a budget's adopted by the Board of Trustees at a university, and they put money, they'll build into that money for a wage increase if there is one. And everyone sees it. Now, do we put it into effect without sending something to the union, doing our due diligence, asking them if they have any objection, saying we have this money in the budget, you know it, we know it, do you want it to go out? We do all of that. We don't change the wages unilaterally without any going through that process. So that's how it is. It's just we have sunshine laws in Florida. We have a budget process that's mandated, and so that's how it kind of comes about. But has wage increases been budgeted, and then the union comes and says we don't want it? Yeah, it's happened. Then they don't get it. We go on, as Janice said, and continue to negotiate.
I guess the point that I was trying to make was that, obviously I was following the budget cycle, and I see that 3%. What I'm trying to say is to avoid what just occurred, which was the union having some questions regarding the 3% or how the MOU was going to be drafted, it would have been nice for that to occur before they finalized that budget, and then you all sent over the MOU. It would have avoided, 230 employees sitting here wondering about retro pay. That the discussion should have occurred before it was just kind of said, here's 3%.
This process happened just as it had in every year in my memory, and I've been with the county for almost 12 years. And you were given the same opportunity to sign the same document that all the other union representatives were given. And if you had signed it, then all of those employees would have received that 3% increase as of October 6th.
It's very, very disheartening to hear you speak like that.
Me?
We're saying, no, not you.
And it was your option to choose not
So-
to, and you absolutely
so-
had that option.
He's talking about a time, and it happened in a timely manner. Just because something happened previously, or just because it happens to somebody else, don't mean you shove it down my throat and don't give me, and take away my legal rights. So, in doing so, Mike is saying, hey, look, and we've said this to you several times across the state.
In the past.
We'd like to have it happen earlier, for one, and we don't want a document that after you make a decision and we have some concerns and then you use it against us when we're trying to clarify some issues, right? We have that right to try to clarify the issues. We would like to do it before, not after. It continues to happen after, and we continue to say something about it. It's all about harmony and working together, right? And we're not saying that the county commissioners don't have that right. We've never said that to you across the table. We've said that we would like to have it prior to, and have them know what we would like or what we're asking to prior to. That's all we've ever said from day one, that I've been working with you. So having it after, having that MOU after, it's already been happening, and the date's been given, and not taking into consider our time frame or what we may be having to go, and then get this kind of response, that's the problem.
Well,
It's not.
my point was, we cannot offer that in writing until the board officially approves it. We cannot, as staff, we may not do that. The county administrator may not do that. That's how the process works.
Look, Mike, we do a lot of things before in our business prior to somebody making a final decision, including negotiating. Right now, we're in a process. Right now, you just rejected a contract, a whole contract with full of TAs, right? So you do a lot of things prior to that you can agree to, so when it happens, you sign off on it, everybody's on the same sheet of music. So I don't agree with that statement. We're, once again, saying to you across the table and the new administrator, we would like to do things proactively versus reactively. That's all we're saying. That's exactly what Mike is saying. And we don't think that that's unreasonable.
Well, okay.
And it doesn't affect any statute or any laws to say that, nobody said you got to sign off on it, but we can talk about it. We can agree to things prior to.
Well, I think that's what we're trying to do today. We've made some offers. You've put a wage offer before us today for our consideration.
Right.
So, I mean, we're trying to do that, and that's like, I guess for whenever this contract goes into effect.
Right.
So we're in the process of having those kinds of discussions on economic issues here today.
Correct.
For the future.
Right.
And so that's, I think, and we're all about that, Curtis. We're fine with having negotiations on wages well in advance of the implementation. That's fine. I think
Right, but the
that's not a
count-
problem. I think what, my remarks were just in response, in an effort to try to explain to Mike his question, which was, how is it that it seems like, he said, in the county, these things pop up every year at a certain time of the year, and an MOU goes out, kind of thing. And I think it's just, that's just how that happens. I mean, we certainly could say we have authorization or a budget number of 3%, but we're just going to go to the table and negotiate. We could do that.
Right, no. And I think Mike and myself and the rest of us, we received your communications well.
Yeah.
But be careful how I say this.
Yeah, be careful how you say this.
The way she just said it to us, generally, especially in the tone, gives a reaction from people. And then that's what the reaction is, what the county commissioners receive, because y'all have the conversations with the county commissioners. Of course, we have the right to have some dialogue with them, but we don't have meetings with them and tell them, well, this is what the union position was, right? Because our position isn't in a hostile way, and it's not in a derogatory way or anything else. It's, hey, look, we'd like to do this earlier. We want you to consider this. And we don't believe that that message is getting sent over there like that. We believe that it's getting sent over in the tone and then at the direction that she just gives us all the time. And pretty much I would say I've spoken to one or two of them, and that's the way they've suggested, Curtis. That's not what I received in my briefing. So I said, well, that's not how we, that's not our position. Here's our position.
Well, I think, okay, well, certainly, Curtis, I think everybody on this side of the table feels that it's in everyone's interest, and we do the best we can to try to communicate accurately your position to the commissioners. I mean, my thought is that if they don't understand what you're telling us, then we're not doing our job. Because, you know, if you go to them and tell them something different, then they're not getting fully informed. So we try to robustly, fully express to them what your position is. I guess, you know, we're even now being recorded, so they get to go and look and see if we're doing the right thing.
It's completely transparent.
So, we'll continue to do that. I just wanted to, I know that you expressed a concern that maybe we're not. We're trying. I try. You know, one of the things that, over my career, is that one of the things that I find is most frustrating for the commission, any legislative body, is if you don't accurately communicate what the union's position is and why, what their rationale is, and they hear it for the first time in a public hearing, and then or an impasse hearing, and they go, "What? We didn't know that." So, I'll try.
Okay. We can move on.
Well, I do have one question. In the past years, you know, as far as, you know, a 3%, you know, the MOU was always signed, you know, after October 1st, you know, sometimes, you know, towards the end of the month, and retro was always given, but how come that's not?
It's always been signed timely. We haven't done retro in many, many years. I've been here 6 years, we haven't done retro in about 6 years.
So I just want to add this, one more thing.
Before you speak, real quick. What's timely? You said timely. What's timely?
Typically, payroll gives a deadline to HR and says, hey, we see that the budget was adopted. If we're going to get MOUs, we need them by this date in order to implement into payroll for the pay period that the board has approved.
And the clerk's office will not implement without a signed
MOU.
document.
So
all of those are put on us.
Which leads me to my question about MOUs. It wasn't the 3% in this case of this fiscal year. It wasn't the 3% that was the question. It was creating the MOU. I would hope you would agree that the MOU can't just be drafted by one side and then it stops there. There has to be a communication about the language that's in the MOU to make sure that both sides understand what the MOU says. An example of that is the ECAT MOU.
It's a boilerplate document.
We learned at negotiations that you all were only giving that to existing employees. It didn't say that in the MOU, but that was your intent. So, you know, without having that dialogue about the MOU to understand exactly what it means, you know, I could be putting myself in a bad position for the bargaining unit. All I'm asking for is, as soon as the MOU's put together, let's sit down and let's get the answers fixed, and we wouldn't be sitting here in January, middle of January, talking about retro pay for employees.
But this is, I mean, I'm just saying that I provided to you a document that had historically been provided for multiple years. So that's the part that I'm having a difficult time reconciling, is what makes the one that was sent to you this year so differently than the one that had been signed for so many years before? That's the irony of this entire conversation.
Well, first of all, this bargaining unit, it was under 1771, so just to start off, it was ATU, but it's 1771, a
Correct.
different union president. As you noticed, the year before, for using ECAT as example, the MOU for ECAT employees was totally different than all the other MOUs that was actually signed off on. It was different because I was involved and I had clarification. Eric Kleiner met with me, we went through it, Jack Brown got involved, and before I knew it, it was all clarified, we got it done, and everything was done. Eric sent that over, and we got it done that year, under the
You're
ECAT.
talking about 2018, it would not have been Jack Brown.
Well, then it was Amy, or I don't know who it was at the time, but it was Amy then. But I remember Eric Kleiner, he's the one that, I've got the emails, the communications back and forth between him and I. All I'm saying is there was good communication, and there was no one that didn't get the raise. But when you get an MOU by email, and it says you have till this day, if you don't sign it, because it says the clerk's office won't process it, now I'm under the gun. So I countered back the MOU, and then it stopped. All communications from that point stopped and said, well, we'll see it in negotiations. The MOU we sent back agreed to the 3%. It didn't agree to some of the language, that's all. So why couldn't we have continued that communication? It felt like it was deliberately done on my side. It felt like that was, okay, you won't agree to our MOU, everything stops for you. And that's not the way it should work. That's not communication, that's not negotiations, that's not doing justice for the workers. And I don't even think that was the intent of the commissioners to do it that way. So that's just my opinion.
Okay.
All right.
Well, I think there's more that we can say, but I think we've probably spent enough time on this, so we can probably move along.
Okay, Tom.
We received, go ahead, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go.
No, Mike was just asking me, did I give you our proposals earlier?
Yeah.
And I just clarified to him that I,
Yeah, that's what I was going to talk to you about next, is we have them. There's a lot of language here.
So I will mention in Article 8, the leaves, there still should be possibly a few more sections that will be drafted to add to it. You saw we stopped there because we were debating on.
I thought this one I could just write in whatever.
No. No, that's where we stopped and we said, well, we need to cover some more, decide how we want to draft the language. So we just want you to understand that. Okay?
and nobody said anything, but please scratch out the date on there and put today's date, yes. I was waiting to see who would catch it, but nobody caught it, so I'll bring it to your attention.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just to show you, we've been working on this for a while.
Okay. And so, we're going to have to read through this carefully. So then there's Article 10 that we were given. But I understand Article 10, there's a request for new language that would address on-call, and that would be that someone who's on-call but not called in would get 6 hours of pay, and somebody who is called in would get time worked plus 4 hours. Is that right? Okay, I think we understand the request. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, yep, that's it.
Salaries you told us about. You gave us the presentation. I suppose that,
Then we're requesting a committee be put together for wages.
okay, so there's a wage study committee, there's increases based on years of service, FRS language is already in the contract. There's retirement, health coverage language, it's added. There's light duty language that's added that's not necessarily, I guess, with BCC policy. I don't I'd have to go look at the BCC policy to see if it's in line with that or not. The, 1504 is what struck is the current language, like, so it's 95 and it's going to 115?
Yeah,
Is that what it is?
That's what we're offering, yes.
Okay. And then there's longevity pay. That's retitled service percentage. And it's a percentage. Okay.
The county no longer pays longevity pay, as far as I know. Jana, is that correct? We don't have longevity
No,
pay?
it's EIP. Education incentive, sorry. It's education incentive pay.
And then there's a new section 1511 on maintenance, education, and training,
The certifications, yeah.
which has certifications. There's a lot to this too, it looks like.
Yeah, because it also has an economic piece to it as well.
Well, we're going to have to cost all that out. And does anybody on the team have any questions about any of this?
I do have a question just about the wage study committee, because it refers to all unions under the BOCC. Are you talking about like the IAFF and the IAEP, so like all the, okay.
So we put that proposal across, let me address it this way. If you were to agree to the wage progression, then we'd probably be okay. But if we can't get there to the wage progression, which we think is the best system, we think the wage study committee is important, and it's been something in previous talks, in other negotiations that was thought out, that would create a committee that would constantly looking at, to determine that classifications are being taken care of as far as their pay structure. And that would be an ongoing committee that would work and make recommendations to the commission.
Okay, thank you.
All right. So we have given you the two articles that, the seniority and probationary period articles that we brought with us today. We do not have anything else. I don't think we're going to be able to digest these kind of lengthy and economically impactful articles that we were given today, but we will take them back and consider them, and we will cost them out. Is there anything else that we have? on
Well,
either side?
we counted on those two.
Oh, okay, if you want to give us a,
That might be
Yeah, good.
something that we can get closer on.
why don't we take a caucus then? 19, we have some movement here.
Okay.
We can't agree to everything, but we can agree to some things that you've asked us to do. Now, let's go to 7. To take out most recent, I think we have to have most recent stay there because of the next sentence, which is the bridge, right? So if we take out most recent, then why, then we don't have a bridge, if you understand what I'm saying. Some people, whether you're hired and you never leave, or you're hired and you leave and come back, it's still the most recent. Unless you come back within a year. That's our proposal. So we can't make a change to the first section. The second section, you asked us to add at the end of the paragraph and the collective bargaining agreement, and we're willing to do that. Now, 19. So, 19, we certainly have the greatest respect for people who have jury, maternity leave, military leave, all of that good stuff. There are laws in place that protect people who are on jury duty, military leave, or are pregnant. And so we're going to defer to those laws not add them to this in terms of how they're regarded. But this is what we'll do for 1901, under definition. Instead of saying each day of absence will be added to the probationary period, we'll go back to the language that says when an employee on probation misses 5 or more consecutive workdays. So that's a pretty long period of time, 5 consecutive workdays. And so instead of every day of absence adding to the end, an absence will not be added to the end unless you've missed 5 or more. Which is a pretty, I mean, it's rare when people are out more than 5 days.
Especially in probation.
Yeah. So, well, a person who's on probation, they're at will, we can let them go anytime we want. We want them to be able to, if they're not performing, we might tell them how they're not performing during this 180-day period. If they engage in some misconduct, we might give them a discipline during this 180-day period. Of course, during that 180-day period, if we wanted to, we could always just let them go. So we really don't want to get into a grievance process over discipline or performance evaluations, because that would probably discourage the use of discipline or performance evaluations during these 180 days. It would probably drive a supervisor to just say, I don't want to get into a grievance with you over discipline or an evaluation. I'm just going to let you go today. Today's your last day. So, and we don't really want that. So that's why we can't agree to 1902. But what we can agree to, besides the change we'll make on 1901, is we will agree to restore that the report that you get is going to be on a monthly basis, which is what you've asked for. Now, this is, in 1904, you've asked us to put HR instead of department-specific, and I want to talk to you about that for a second. I mean, we don't have a lot of heartburn about when you get your hour or during what part of the orientation process you get the hour, but we do note this. When HR has their orientation, everybody who's new hired is in it. So it's everybody from all the departments, firefighters, people from corrections,
engineering,
PBA, all the people who are not in any unit. So you're gonna get a mixed bag of people. If you go out to the department portion of it, you're gonna be able to just focus on the departments where your people are.
When does that occur in each department? Does it occur immediately after the HR orientation, or is it at the discretion of the department to hold orientation?
It's at the discretion of the department. So just to follow up on what he said, so how HR structure of the orientation is set, the first 4 hours is going over county policies and getting a new employee oriented to the county and policies and procedures, the more important ones aspect of it. And then the second portion is for benefits, signing up for benefits, health and retirement and whatnot, and that explanation. So both of those are time-consuming pieces. So I think it would be hard for the union rep to get a time to get in there in that day, because we don't wrap up generally until 4. So it's like an 8:30 to 4 process. So in terms of, I don't want to waste a union person's time trying to fit that in. And on the department level, like the point he made, you're going to catch the employees that actually it would be applicable to versus maybe the 1 or 2 that trickle in the new hire that are also with all the other county employees that are in there.
The only problem with that is if you got 4 different departments that you got to go out to, now you got to have 4 hours to talk, 4 different hours to go around and talk to different people instead of them being just the union folks for ATU just brought in a time where for that hour, whether it's extended an hour or denied an hour, it'd just be 1 hour versus 4 hours.
No, I understand what you're saying. Do you think you
the
could?
county is spread out too. I've experienced this. You go to his location, then you go to 9 Mile, then you go out to, what's the?
North Camp.
North Camp. Man, you talking about burning some miles.
Do you think y'all could coordinate, or the union would be willing to coordinate with the department director, since it happens on the department director's levels, so that y'all could kind of prevent that? Maybe they all get together, then
Let
you
me
hire?
ask this question. Could we, once a quarter or once every other month, get all of our new hires, send them down to HR, not necessarily on your orientation day, but use the HR training room, and then they can send one rep from, and cover everybody at one time?
Like a one-and-done?
Would that be acceptable?
I can't speak for Mike. That's a Mike question.
That's actually, while you're thinking about it, if I was on your side, I'd prefer that to orientation, because you get a new person orientation, they're hearing all sorts of stuff all day long, they're
Yeah, it's about-
kind of processing all this stuff, you get up and all that, but if you can have a standalone meeting dedicated to your issues and your information, I don't
Yeah,
know.
but it's definitely better when you work together to get it done, period.
I like the idea. The only concern I have is making sure that it's done in a semi-timely fashion. I don't, having an employee get out to the property and then not know that they fall under a collective bargaining agreement, not being able to see it, not being able to do all that and understand what the grievance process is, and for them to just understand their rights under the collective bargaining agreement,
What would be
or their rights under a union, right?
What would be your recommended regular?
Yeah.
It doesn't make a difference, but they don't fall under.
Yeah, if it's, well, did they say?
No, they didn't, but I
Yeah.
was just trying to tell you that.
If it was within 90 days, I would think then, yeah.
But HR doesn't do a deep dive into the union, but they do actually mention that we have 5 representing unions.
Right.
So in the HR, that is the one portion of the HR training where, when everybody's there, they say we have 5 unions that represent different entities, and they say who falls under it. So we don't get into any specifics with the union, because we're not, the union, but we let the employees know. So that's kind of a starting piece in terms of, it's not like they wouldn't be told at all. But I understand what you're saying, they don't up front initially, right off the bat, necessarily get the deep dive into it.
We need to talk about it as a group, but
Just think about it. I just wanna think of it.
philosophically, if we could have it done within the first 90 days, it probably will work for you, and it would probably work for us as well.
I think that's doable.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
And then it gives everybody time to coordinate and get everybody on the same page. But we still need to talk about it, but yeah, we appreciate you
So maybe
suggesting
some more
that.
language.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll come back with something, and definitely let you know, but I appreciate you putting it on the table.
Okay, thank you.
Well, that's a response to those 2 articles.
Okay.
Compromise.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so just give us a quick second, and there's not a whole lot to talk about.
Okay.
So we'll try to get this done today. About the most recent date, issue. If you want to ask that question we talked about.
Let me see.
The most recent one about if you change apartments and stuff.
Oh, so my concern with this is where it says, okay, bargaining unit members who are re-employed by the county with, you said, and you have here, 1 year of date of separation will retain past years of service for the purpose of determining seniority. But up above it, the sentence before that says, for the purpose of this agreement, seniority shall, unless otherwise stated, be determined by the length of continuous years of service from the most recent date of hire.
Yeah.
Okay, so my question to that is, are we only specifically talking about if someone is hired and then leaves and then comes back? Or this is not going to apply to anyone changing classifications or going from an equipment operator 2 to a 3 and then you claiming they have a new hire date?
No.
Okay.
The original hire date.
Okay.
That's why, can I see the language for a second?
Of course you can.
Sorry, we took one.
Right, that just means, that means the initial hire date with the county.
Okay, so, and if they leave past a year, then they'd have a new hire date?
They'd have a new hire date if they came back to work for the county, right?
Okay. Okay, I'm good.
All right, so we'd like to TA that, we'll leave it at most recent, 1 year, and then add the language that you said at the end that you're okay with.
Okay.
Do that one. I'll have to prepare it.
Okay.
19,
Mm-hmm.
we do have some response to, too.
Okay.
1901, we accept your counter.
Okay.
1902, we agree just to keep the current language,
Okay.
which is your counter.
Status quo.
1903, we accept that, adding it back to monthly.
Okay.
1904 is, we accept what he was saying, except we wanted to make sure that it's coordinated through HR. This way, it's easier, so we don't have to call all the managers. Coordinated through HR every 90 days
Yeah.
For an orientation. of
for an
new hires.
orientation and new hires.
For a union meeting.
Union
Yeah,
meeting.
we would like that, but that's
You
not
want it just an hours, just an hour meeting?
Oh,
And
I'll
they're
take
still-
two. if you give it.
We'll take more.
No one just offered,
No one
Mike.
is even going to stand listening to you for an hour. What are
Oh,
you talking
trust me.
about?
Trust me, I can,
Yeah, so-
I can make 2 hours.
So the
just
language
fly
is
right by.
is agreeable, we just want to add,
The coordinated.
Wait.
the coordinated through.
You forgot the language. They'll provide.
Oh, yeah.
Donuts.
But did you, I thought you said,
One donut.
I thought you said you agreed with us taking the employee's consent out.
Well, I didn't agree to
No.
that before.
But hopefully
But
you
I don't
can.
need, hey, I'll be honest with you, I've been, how do we, we don't, when we say with employees' consent, we don't mean we're going to go and ask the employee whether,
That's why we asked you the question.
yeah, but if
So
an
let's do it
employee
the-
walks out on you because they hate unions,
Right, and that's,
we're not going to do anything about
Let-
that.
and we're not neither.
Let's do the reverse then. Why don't we leave the language and take it out? And obviously, if we're sitting in a meeting and someone says, I don't want to be here, I can't stop them from
Right,
walking out.
that's what we
Correct?
talked about.
I'm not going to be able to stop them.
Right, right.
It's
No,
not being made mandatory.
Yeah, we're just trying to
That's,
make.
we just want to make sure it's not being made mandatory.
in other words, if somebody says, what's this meeting about? Like,
Yeah.
you get to meet,
Well,
you would get to meet with this really nice. guy,
Indirectly,
Mike
it's
Lowry,
mandatory, but
who,
directly, it's not
has all
mandatory.
these,
You're saying as
We're
a,
coordinating everybody to come in, but however, if there's somebody that wants to leave, and then it's their right. Legally, it's their
We're
right.
not going to punish anybody, discipline somebody because they don't show up for this meeting or because after
Well,
5 minutes
let me
they
ask
say,
you-
So,
walk out.
yeah.
But we're not going to take a vote of the employees.
But,
That isn't what
but,
we mean by
but
we
so
take
there's two important pieces here. and
He's
I'm-
going to ask, what do we say
Two
in those
important
meetings?
pieces here. One is that whether they join the union or don't join the union, they should listen to the 1 hour presentation, and everybody should encourage that because that's what they're actually governed by.
Right.
When they come out to the workforce, that's what they're governed by. They're governed by your policies and procedures and the labor agreement, both.
I'm with you.
So whether they join or not, they should at least hear the presentation. I think we should all encourage that. But the second part of it is, it's up to them whether they join. It's always been up to them in Florida, state of Florida, whether they join or not, so.
Yeah, and so most people, okay, 99% of the people are probably going to sit there, whether they agree with you and support you 100%, or they don't, and they politely listen to what you have to say, and then they go their way. But we're just saying that, like, if somebody gets up and says, I'm offended by this, I don't want to hear this, and they walk out, they're actually kind of exercising their rights.
Right, and we're okay with that.
Yeah.
That was the question I asked you earlier, so that's, I'm sorry for cutting
So
you.
what if we have an employee that says, not so much, I don't want to go down there and listen to it?
He doesn't
Well,
have
we
to go
just-
down-
we did that, we-
He doesn't have to go down there and listen to it, there's only one problem. He's still governed by it, so.
Oh, I understand
You
that.
as a manager gonna say, well, I gave you an opportunity to go down there and listen to it, so you coming in here for discipline. I agree. You missed your opportunity of hearing what's going on.
I agree with that.
And I guess, say if it was in your instance and you told an employee, they said no, would you communicate that through HR to us or just directly to us saying, well,
Probably
I,
send something to HR. say
Right, say, hey, this employee denied.
Declined his,
Right.
his or her right.
at least we knew that you gave the opportunity. that you
That's
told us
where I got the problem
deny.
here. This is where it's going down the road that I got a problem now. We don't have an agreement yet. Because I'm going to tell you, what we do at my location is, right after the HR orientation, they have an orientation immediately. That's why I asked about doing this. Immediately at our location, on day one, the union walks in, we present them the labor agreement, we tell them their rights under the state of Florida now, no longer private sector, so we tell them what Flow 447 is and what it says about them being able to join the union or not join the union, and if they join the union, how much time it takes them to get out and what they have to do to get out. We read them the statute of 447. And then obviously we tell them a little history about the union and what we're about. But when we give them an application and say, if you're interested, fill it out. If not, here's the application in the future if you want to, and here's our business card, because you have a right, even if they're not a member of the union, you know this, they have a right to call the union and say, hey, I want to file a grievance. Now, it doesn't mean that we will represent that grievance. I have a history of representing that grievance, or looking at that individual. But the point that I'm trying to make to you is, I don't want it to be because they went off to, hung out with a bunch of, no offense, some supervisors at Roads and Bridges who told them, you don't need that union, don't join. And next thing I know, I got every one of them saying, I ain't coming to an orientation.
Might not be the supervisor they're hanging with.
I'm just throwing, I throw out the supervisor, you throw out whoever you want, but that's the point I'm making. And I think that doesn't do the process right, where they're getting to see, number one, ensuring that they understand the labor agreement and understand the grievance process underneath it, and the other areas of that labor agreement that affect them. I just think that, we're...
All right, well, the alternative is to go back to the prior proposal, which would be 1 hour at the department orientation, whenever that might be. I mean, I think what Wes was trying to do is make it more effective for you, not less effective for you.
No, and I appreciate that, but...
But I think the bottom line is, it's going to be at the employee's option, and we can't force them to participate if they wish to not participate.
I mean, the reality of it is, we're not going to punish someone, like I said, if they say, I don't want to go there.
I'm not interested.
Or if they say, after a half an hour, I'm not interested.
So let me back up, Mike. Let me ask this question.
Yeah.
So if the employer obligates them to attend and they're being on the clock, I'm assuming they're on the clock, right? And they attend the union meeting, don't they have to go?
I think that we intend this to be on the clock, right?
We do intend, I would intend it to be on the clock.
Yeah.
So
They could resume their duties, they could go back to work.
Well,
I have individuals all the time that come to orientations with the union. They come in, some join the union, some don't.
Well,
Do
that's
I
what said
scold
earlier.
them because they didn't join the union? No. I'm not going to, I only got 1 hour. I'm not going to spend the hour mostly making sure they understand the collective bargaining agreement, understanding their rights under the laws, and then understanding what a union is, because many of them walk in, they never even know what a union is.
Personally, I think that if there was a supervisor in the system that was discouraging attendance, you would know about it. You would bring it to our attention. We would rectify that. Someone's going to say,
I don't know if I
I
can-
wanted to go to that
be
meeting,
careful how I
but I was
answer that.
told not to. You would hear about it. We could take care of that. We could police that.
I don't feel confident in that answer, Mike, sorry. So-
I'm
Is
not
there
being
anywhere you don't
facetious.
have a union representative?
We're working on some departments where we need to put some union reps there at this point.
The answer is yes.
Is there a
Yes.
department where you don't have one?
Yes, yes. County's very big, so yes, there's places we don't have.
What's to stop, let's say, you're going to get this list of new hires every month. You're going to know who's coming to the orientation that we're doing for you, especially for you. What's to stop you from contacting them and saying, are you, we'll look forward to seeing you at the orientation. If somebody at the says, my supervisor said I can't go, you're going to know that.
We would love you to provide us their address, we'd send them a letter too. So that'd be fine.
The benefits section
No,
is
so you
there
don't
longer
understand.
because
I don't
we'll sit
get that.
there and help them.
Let me
Send them a letter, it'll go.
All right, we're going to have to work on this
Let me
one.
have a
Let me
conversation
ask
with
this
Mike.
question.
Just me and you outside.
Now, Janice says that orientation normally starts at 9 a.m. Could y'all not meet at 8
Yeah, we can
Sure.
o'clock? That's the normal orientation day. New employee's going to be there. Any union employee's going to be there for orientation.
What orientation are we talking about, the department?
Yeah, the HR orientation. The only,
But
I
then
see
your
what you're saying, but
orientations are today.
we don't open, like, our doors don't open till 8. And so, I mean, you know, I do have employees there before 8, so, but we normally ask the employees to be there at 8:30 anyways, you know,
How often do you have orientation classes?
every week,
Every
every Tuesday.
Every Tuesday?
Except for,
You don't wanna be
exceptions for
going there
holidays,
every
but pretty much
Tuesday.
every Tuesday. Yeah, that's the, yeah, every Tuesday.
That's a lot of meetings.
Yeah, I only.
But you wouldn't have to do it every Tuesday.
And
Still do it
and
once a-
somebody's only offered me 120 hours for union time, so I don't know.
And that could be going in the other direction, you never know.
So could you adjust your meetings by 30 minutes, so it could be 8:30 to 9:30? Your training? Can you condense that 30 minutes into 2
I just
days?
have to talk to my staff, because it's about coverage in terms of.
Right, that's why I'm asking you, yeah.
Yeah, I don't mind talking to my staff about it and trying to figure out if we could possibly adjust it.
There's some weeks there wouldn't even be someone in the class that's not under the bargaining unit either.
Correct.
Sometimes it's just one. Give me a second, let me talk
Yeah,
to Mike.
yeah, sure.
All right, don't take long.
Yeah.
Trainer or something in school,
Yeah,
we'll see.
doctor of physical therapy.
So, I think we have a compromise if you guys can compromise a little bit on this, but go ahead and tell them. Mike.
So she said 8:30 to 9:30 if it's a bargaining unit employee at your HR. So that way we don't have to do special meetings. But I think we can live with that as long as you notify us in advance to say, hey, you know, we got one that falls under your bargaining unit. Let it be at that point. We'll respond in an email, make it real easy to you. Say, okay, we'll be there, and one of our union officials will be there to address the individuals. We'll work it out on our end.
Okay, but I will say this, and that's fine, it's just, I think that the key piece is it's about making it mandatory for the employee, whether or not, so if we say you're union employee or potentially union employee, you fall under this, you know, be here at 8:30 for this instead of 9:30, they could still choose to be like, I don't want to go to that part of it, so I want to come in at 9:30. And so I don't think it's going to fix what you are trying to accomplish, what you're trying to accomplish.
Okay, well, I think I can live with it because it's in the front end.
Okay.
And I think that as long as they know they're getting paid, they're probably going to show up. As a new hire, they're going to show up. And that's how I feel. Now, there could be an occasional person that says, I'm anti-union.
I don't think
ain't
it's
gonna
all
do it.
about pay neither. I think new employees want to know as much as they can about what they're walking into.
Right.
And they're gonna listen whether they agree with it or not. Like, I think what all of us are saying is true. If they don't want to be in the union, they don't want to be bothered with you. At the end of the presentation, and the best way I can give it to you, all of us go on vacation. When you go on vacation, they want you, oh, I'm gonna give you a free day or a free pass somewhere if you listen to my presentation. We all go listen to the presentation because we want to see we want that free whatever they're giving us.
We do give them food and coffee.
My point is that
Can you four of us step up?
all of them are gonna at least want to listen.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Give us a minute, okay, Kurt?
Yeah, we're going to, I want to step out with them real quick.
Resolve 1904 is we would just have we would keep the language that we have on the table, which is that you'll have 1 hour during new employee orientation. We change department out for HR, and then that would, you would just work out the hour.
With her,
with HR.
right?
Yeah. Because we don't, we're not going to start scheduling orientation.
No, that's fine, that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I think that can be reasonable and say,
You'll get an hour.
hey, there's no one in this orientation. You won't even contact me, right?
So we clean it up, and next time we get together, we'll sign off.
Yeah, we got 7 and 19 out of the way.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Good. All right,
So, I guess- so we're talking dates next, right?
okay.
Can I make a suggestion? Calendar. Can I make, you got your calendar?
No, let me go get my calendar.
Yeah, it's in it's in the other room. And I'll say this to them so they hear it. I know it's hard, but it's really productive to get a couple days, if not 2 to 3 days in a row. If you're really trying to work to get to an agreement, having 1 day at a time it gets you 2 little articles, If we could look to see if there's a couple days in a row, that would help.
Well, I think with PBA on Wednesday, what did we get, about 15 articles?
We had 3 hours.
Yeah.
It was a half-day session.
Yeah, and I think,
So-
I think with the paramedics, we got almost the entire, except 2 articles and a couple of, yeah.
That's right.
Well, I can't speak for those unions, and I don't know
Okay, but
what
I'm
was
just-
on the
I'm giving
table.
you examples of other unions that have been able to do it.
Right.
In one day or a couple of hours. That's all. I just wanted to mention
Well, my
that.
experience is that, there have been days like that, and then but then there are days, we are not there right now. So I think to get into that mode where you're cleaning up and everybody's moving towards ending articles, you need to have a couple days to get to that point. I'm just suggesting that, right, Curtis? It makes it better. Mike doesn't have to drive over, he don't have to fly in, then turn around and go back.
All right, well, why don't you, we have a lot of schedules to coordinate, so why don't you give us several dates where you're available, Curtis, and then we'll, rather than do that and have everybody here, we'll get back to you.
February. I can make it happen on,
If you could give me several dates, it'd be great.
you doing the weekends too?
I don't know, that's up to, that's up to,
You've been doing a lot of weekends lately, haven't you?
It's either that or don't get it done for further down. Oh.
Yeah, the problem is, this hasn't linked up. Yeah, so I don't have those on this.
well,
And I don't know why.
I can do the 10th and 11th,
Sorry, Feb?
February, yes.
okay.
I can do, right now, the 17th, 18th, and 19th,
I'm out on those dates.
or the 24th and 27th. That's in
What was the second set?
It won't work. 'cause he's out.
Shay.
The second set of dates won't work already, so. The 9th, it'll be the 10th and 11th, or the 24th.
Yeah, see, none of that.
Well, that is.
Oh, that's not, that's a different one.
That's a different.
Okay, I was like.
That's a different
I don't
county.
have any of those on.
That's
Okay, now I feel better,
Okaloosa.
because I was like,
That's Okaloosa.
okay. You said 24th, 25th of February?
Yeah,
24th through the 27th, right?
right. Whichever 2 days. I wasn't suggesting on 4 though.
That's a hearing at Valencia.
Not unless he gets involved, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And what, if
maybe
those
I just need
dates,
to work with their-
what about March?
March.
I have the first week of March completely open, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6.
It's completely open for me.
When's the legislative conference? Then I just got that. It's the end of March.
I'm not in it, yeah, so you gotta look at it.
Yeah, I don't have that with me, but it's the end of March.
I don't get it.
I think it's the last
But
week.
the first week is
Last
open.
week, I think.
March 6th? March 6th? Anybody March 6th?
We're just gonna do one day?
Well, that's the day I'm saying right now.
And the reason why I'm asking is, so, we're
Well,
in
Thursday.
January now, we're gonna meet back in March. If we keep doing one day, we'll be here forever.
Well-
At least 2 days.
If, I don't know if we're available on Saturday, but if, it sounds like you're meeting with other people on Saturdays, is the 7th available?
It can be.
All right, well, we'll take
The
that.
ones that I have to fight with are my kids. But, I'll take my time somewhere else on the front end.
Do you think
Okay.
we could do a day and a half, or would it need to be the full 2 days?
Be a day and a half, I just don't, meeting 45 days out and just meeting one day,
Yeah.
and then just.
Trying to remember what you,
We'll be here quite some
Yeah,
time.
no, that is understandable.
So I'm open, I'll leave the
Yeah,
6th
so if
and
you wanna do
7th
6th
open.
and 7th?
And if we do, what we can
Okay,
do
so
is determine
6th and
on the
7th.
first day, we determine how long we sit, stay on the second day.
Yeah, okay, I'm with you.
When's opening day for you guys?
6th and 7th.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
so you're gonna look at the February dates, and then you're looking at March, the dates you offered in March. When will we know which
Yeah, I
ones you will look at?
Well, we'll tell you tomorrow.
Oh, you'll know by tomorrow, maybe?
Yeah.
Okay. I forgot we're meeting tomorrow, aren't we?
Yeah.
I'm just messing with you, Mike.
I think you did forget.
I did not forget. Trust me.
Well, we'll see you in the morning.
All right.
Thank you very much.